Some thoughts from the streets of Beijing there on those new stricter regulations about selling cold medicines. And before we go today, time for some reaction from a Chinese cartoonist to a situation we've already mentioned in the show today, and that is the ongoing friction between China and Japan and those protests that have happened in cities across China in reaction to the recent developments in the islands known as Jiaoyu or Senkaku in the East China Sea. And our cartoonist today is Huang Biao. This comes via the China Media Project that's based in Hong Kong University, and it's posted on his Weibo site. It's a microblogging site. Let's have a look at the picture. We can see let's look on the left first then. There's a person on the ground stabbing themselves repeatedly with a knife of some sort. Blood is coming out. Instead of a head, there's a hammer, and around it is sort of a bandana of some sort. He's pointing to a gentleman standing on a little island off the coast, dressed in sort of traditional Japanese clothing, looking a little bit perplexed to say the least. And from the gentleman on the left there is the sentence, "I'm looking into this self-mutilation. What happens next depends on what you do." Now, this cartoon from Huang Biao refers to what we've already mentioned in the programme, that is that situation between China and Japan about those disputed islands, but particularly the protests that took place in China over the last few days. And some of these, apart from being some peaceful protests outside the Japanese embassy and consulate, some of them did turn rather a bit violent. The consulate in Guangzhou was attacked and buildings around it destroyed. But what the Huang Biao is getting at here was the behaviour of a certain section of rather extreme nationalists who attacked anything to do with Japan. It could be Japanese-owned businesses, restaurant, cars. There were cases of Japanese cars being turned over, even Japanese-made police cars. And the general feeling amongst many people in China, particularly people online, that this was really a rather self-defeating and in fact, rather stupid way of reacting to this. Because why? The cars belong to Chinese people. They're made in factories in China, employing Chinese workers. The restaurants are generally owned by Chinese people. They employ Chinese workers as well. The shops and the stores here supply goods to Chinese people. They employ Chinese people. They're very often joint ventures. The car owning factories, and the factories, as we mentioned earlier, like Canon and Panasonic, employ a vast amount of Chinese labour and also sell many of their goods to Chinese consumers. So Huang Biao really, using that old phrase here, cutting off your nose to spite your face, saying that these so-called patriots, these nationalist people who were seen attacking with such fervour anything that they felt had to do with Japan, were really doing no good. All they were doing was harming their own compatriots. A lot of that support for that view online, indeed a very well-known blogger, Han, wrote a widely forwarded blog about the situation, saying that such people are certainly, they may be many names, but they certainly are not patriots. And that is the take of cartoonist Huang Biao to those rather, a certain section of rather peculiar reactions in those protests against Japan, which actually hurt Chinese people more than anything else.